I'm Shachar Azani, and welcome to this very special episode of Eye on Israel. For so many people in Israel, and indeed not just in Israel, it is still October 8th, 2023. The war against evil Hamas in Gaza rages on, and too many innocent people are still being held captive for over 9 months. Much has been shared, including right here on JBS, about the crucial role the Soroka University Medical Center in Israel played, and indeed continues to play, in this ongoing war. Dr. Sapir Bitton is part of that Soroka family. She is 35 years old. She lives in Kibbutz Erez with her partner Shaked and her 2 beautiful boys, Inbar and Sahar. She studied medicine at Ben-Gurion University in the Negev and recently completed her first year as a psychiatry resident at Soroka Hospital. Sapir specializes in child and adolescent psychiatry at the Department of Psychiatry at the hospital. October 7th was Sapir's first day on the psychiatric faculty at the hospital. While deeply concerned for her besieged family in Kibbutz Erez, Sapir continued to treat countless victims of terror, including over time returned hostages, with courage and compassion. With innovative approaches and unwavering commitment, she is transforming mental health care in Israel. And I am thrilled to have Sapir right here with us today at JBS Studios in Times Square. Sapir, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You know, one of the things that come to mind when I, speak with fellow Israelis about October 7th, and in general, there is this question that I used to feel much more comfortable about, and now I'm a bit more, how are you?
Good. I think it depends on the day, sometimes the hour. But I'm good. I'm alive.
You're alive. That's been the continuous answer that, we keep on hearing from so many people. And when I looked at your story, it included so many layers of the experiences that Israelis have been feeling since October 7th up to now. And I want to start with Kibbutz Erez. So you, Shaked, your partner, the kids, you resided, but still to a degree, reside in Kibbutz Erez. How far is Kibbutz Erez from Gaza? And describe life there. How long have you been there? What was life there like?
So we live in the kibbutz for the past 6 years.
6 years.
Shaked was born there.
Okay.
His family lives there, his whole tribe.
Right.
His parents, his grandparents, his brother. So they are a very big family in the kibbutz. And we've been together for the past 15 years.
Oh my goodness. So where did you live at the beginning?
Many years in Be'er Sheva because of my medical school. So it took a while until we moved to the kibbutz.
Mm-hmm. You've always intended to live in Kibbutz Erez?
I think in a way, yes. I'm from the southern part of Israel. I grew up in Midreshet Ben-Gurion, which is very, it's at the southern part.
Right.
And I consider myself as a desert person.
Right.
My whole life I've been in the south. I study medicine in Be'er Sheva. I've worked in Soroka also as a student and now, of course, as a resident. So it was pretty obvious for me that my life belongs to the south of Israel. And the kibbutz, it's an amazing place.
Right.
It's all green and beautiful. I think most of the people in the Gaza Strip envelope always describe this area as 99% of the time heaven and 1% hell. And unfortunately, nowadays it's not the same as it used to be. Because over the years, we always had these escalations and times where we needed to leave the kibbutz because of the situation with Gaza. But of course, nothing in the scale of what happened on October 7th.
Right.
And the kibbutz is really one of the closest one to the border with Gaza. It's almost 600 meters. This is only what separates us from the Gaza border.
So your boys, they're young, right?
Mm-hmm.
4 and 2. So they were born in Kibbutz Erez.
Yes.
being part of that community, such an intimate community, but in proximity to the Gaza Strip, has it ever loomed as a threat? Did you ever live with that notion of the threat that comes from Gaza as a consideration in the way you lived before October 7th?
Yes. I think that every person that lives or chooses to live in this area understand the risks. But I think that it's an amazing place.
Right.
We have such a supportive community.
Right.
People are so connected to each other. We have events. I think as a child to grow up in a place like that, it's amazing.
It's amazing.
It's all grass and green and everything is very much, it's relaxed and I truly believe that most of the time I felt safe. Even though we knew, we received text messages regarding the noises from Gaza, and we used to get, even the days before October 7, texts with messages that the gunfires you hear now, it's from Gaza and Hamas training near to the border and things like that. But I think we got used to that. We thought it's, I never thought like, what are they training for?
Right.
Now we know.
Now we know.
But it used to be our reality, and it was normal for us.
You know, it's amazing because it's very important that people understand just what beautiful communities we're talking about, and truly the beauty of places. I've been there myself. I mean, you're a product of that area in Israel, and what Israel has been able to create in that part of the land is truly astounding, really inspirational, and a source of inspiration for many who come and travel to Israel from all over the world and from many parts of the developing world to liaise, learn, and engage on those techniques. So I really want to make sure that it has its place, proper place in people's minds so that they understand what environment we're talking about. And then into this environment comes into Soroka Hospital, your training, and we arrive at the morning of October 7th. Tell us about that morning. Are you beginning a shift? Are you at the end of the shift? And what is it exactly that you do?
So actually my shift started the day before.
Okay.
It started on October 6th, on Friday morning. I left my home at Kibbutz Erez, and it was...
Friday morning, that's 24 hours.
Yeah. And it was actually my first solo shift as a psychiatrist. I've been at the hospital as a resident for a while before that. And each resident needs to have shifts on its own during usually the time where the seniors are not at the hospital. It's usually during the afternoon and night or on the weekends. So I came Friday morning and I was there. It was pretty hectic shift. I had a lot of work.
You're talking about October 7th or 6th?
6th.
6th.
So it was really busy.
6th was pretty hectic. 6th, okay.
I don't know.
I just want to make sure our viewers...
I don't know why. Maybe there was something in the atmosphere, but some of my patients, I don't know, maybe they knew something I didn't.
Right.
But there were a lot of people that came and asked for a psychiatrist, and I had a lot of work. I remember I bought some food to eat during my shift, and I hadn't got the time to eat it. It all stayed at the refrigerator for weeks later because...
You've always had a passion for mental health?
Yes and no. I think since I remember myself, I wanted to be a doctor. It's something that is part of my home. My father is a doctor, he's a family practitioner, and my mom, she's a nurse.
Oh, wow.
And we live again in a very peripheral area of Israel where medicine is something that is very, you don't have, the closest hospital, which actually I was born at, is Soroka.
Oh, wow.
So
you were born at Soroka Medical Center?
Yeah, like
that's beautiful.
35 years ago.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's such a beautiful... I don't even want to say closure. It's a continuation of this cycle. Amazing to hear. Okay.
Yeah. So it's all part of my life. And
when did you decide mental health is going to be?
I think all over the years, I'm very much, I see myself as an activist. I volunteered in the past with refugees, and I worked with children at risk, and I had many things that were close to the mental health.
Right.
But during my 5th year in medical school, we just moved to the kibbutz, me and Shaked. We got married, and it was a very happy time for us. I got pregnant, and during my first pregnancy, unfortunately, I had a stillbirth, and we lost the baby.
I'm sorry.
And it was a difficult time, to say the least. But I think for me it was a moment, even now, when I look back to what happened, it was a shift for me, that I understood things differently, that I understood what I want my career to be like. But I suffered from postpartum depression, and I felt that medicine wasn't exactly, it didn't give me the hope I needed, and I felt bad most of the time. So I sought help in other places. I used acupuncture and a lot of unconventional medicine. And I think that at this moment I also decided to study Chinese medicine. So I'm also a doctor in the conventional way, but
Right.
also I'm a Chinese
You're definitely you're definitely non-conventional.
Yeah, I agree. But for me, I think to be able to hear people's stories and to help them and truly see them as a whole, it was one of the main reasons why I chose to be a psychiatrist.
Wow.
And I feel
The
there's a
desire
lot
to help
of change
others,
that needs to be done in this field, and this is, I think, why it fits me, I think, better than maybe.
It's a great perspective, because when you think about a hospital that tends to so many injuries of the body, and then you look at Soroka as a hub to take care of those injuries to the soul, and especially that comes with this great desire like yours to help people, a desire that emanates from your own personal journey and personal pain, truly is an amazing perspective to understand who you are. And I think that now we are with you on that hectic October 6th morning, on that first shift you have it at Soroka Hospital, as you say, a very busy morning. You can barely eat, then what happens?
Day become night, and I remember at certain point around 5 a.m. I walked. There is like a huge grass lane at the hospital. I was walking over there with a glass of tea I made for myself, walking to the ER. Usually at these times, especially during the weekend, you don't find a lot of people at the ER. It's mainly patients for me.
Right.
So I was on my way there. I started to treat the patient that were waiting for me. And then the sirens started. It was, I think, 6:30, maybe a bit before.
6:29 a.m.
Exactly. And I remember me standing there. There was like a huge, big TV screen. I was standing in front of it, and I was watching the alerts, and it was, usually it's in our
Like you're
district.
used to having
the
red alert from
exactly.
Gaza, but
I
something
always,
struck you different.
Exactly. The scale of it.
The scale of it.
It was something different.
Right.
And I remember we were standing there. It was really only a few people, me, another resident in different field, and some nurses. And I said to them, for us, the people from the Otef, the Gaza Strip envelope, I'm not afraid of the sirens. We're used to that. I'm afraid of the terrorists. Because already then there were some reports about
infiltrations.
Exactly. And the first thing I did on that morning is to text my husband, Shaked. And
because they're at Kibbutz Erez, very close to Gaza.
Yeah,
right?
They're inside our safe room. And
he was there with the boys?
Yeah. At the beginning he didn't answer, and after a few minutes I was able to reach him, and he told me we're okay, we're at a safe room, but something is wrong. They asked the security squad of the kibbutz to come, and he's part of it. And he asked me if I can come to the kibbutz at this moment, to ask if somebody can replace me from the shift.
He wanted you to come to Kibbutz Erez.
So usually when it starts, we have like our routine exactly.
Right.
So usually we just take a few things, pick up our kids, and drive away. Usually to my parents' house, because it's again in the south, and it's very isolated. So this is what we plan to do. Actually, he said, "You will come, take the kids, and I will go to the security squad." And I asked. We have a WhatsApp group with the other interns, and asked if somebody can come and replace me. In a minute, one of our interns volunteered, and I waited for him to come. And I remember I already went...
Because you can't leave until somebody takes your place.
Somebody needs to replace me.
Right. Even under emergency, where you're worried about your boys.
It actually didn't even cross my mind to live without anyone else.
Cross your mind.
No, I waited. I thought, it will take a while and I'll go. Usually my shift ends at 8 in the morning.
Right.
So it was around 7. I said, it's okay. I remember I took my things, like my bag and everything, and I met with the other intern. But the scale of the sirens, even in Be'er Sheva, which is usually, it happens sometimes, but it's not that common, not in the past few years. So it was something different. And my young sister, she called me again and again, and she told me, Sapir, there are terrorists all over this area. You can't leave the hospital. Please stay there. And she begged me. And I texted one of our kibbutz Tzachi member. She's I forgot the initials for that, but she's in charge of the security in the kibbutz.
Okay, yep.
And I asked her if I can come to the kibbutz to go back.
What made you ask her?
Usually when this starts, the military, because our kibbutz is very close to the Gaza Strip and to the Gaza border, it blocks the road. So I can't drive to my kibbutz.
So you wanted to make sure that the road is open.
Exactly. I thought that maybe they closed the road and I won't be able to
access your place.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I remember just a few minutes later, she texted me, "Don't leave." That's like, period. Don't leave.
2 words. Don't leave, period. And you're thinking about Shaked, Sahar, Inbar, they're there, and you're not leaving.
Yeah, it was a very difficult moment. I felt...
And was Shaked already at that point with the security squad?
He wasn't able to leave because they were even younger than that today.
Right.
And you can't leave them alone. And he was waiting for me. And for me
So she tells you don't leave, she texts you don't leave. Do you call him at that point?
I call him and I tell him something is wrong. I don't think I'll be able to come. And he said, okay, we'll wait. We'll see how it goes. I'll try to leave from the kibbutz with the kids. And I remember that feeling of not being able to be in the place my heart belongs,
right.
And understanding that something is happening and I'm not there. But at the same time, the fear of the sirens and the understanding of that something is happening. I don't know what, I don't know why, but it was a difficult moment, I think. And it took me a while to release it. It took me a few hours while I still wanted to go home. I tried with the military later on and other options. I tried to go back. But I wasn't able to, and I think if I hadn't listened to her and I would go back home, then probably I wouldn't be here sitting with you and talking to you now.
And thank God that you're here with us and at the State of Israel and with Soroka Medical Center. As you are, we're very happy that you made that decision. But, you know, I just want you to think for a minute, for our viewers, about that dilemma at that moment when you know that your family is in harm's way and you can't even reach them. What goes through your mind? What do you do at that point at the hospital? Do you continue work as usual? As usual, as much as the word usual befits anything on October 7th, but do you just carry on with your work?
So I think at this moment, I understood that I had no other option, and we went back to the ER. And I really remembered the image. We were standing at the entrance of the ER. I was there with other doctors, and we were just standing there and waiting for the wounded, the patient to come.
What did you know at that point that was happening?
Not much. While I was standing there, I received a phone call from the kibbutz. They didn't know I was at the hospital at this moment.
Right.
And they asked if I'm there. They told me there are wounded people inside the kibbutz from the security squad, that there are terrorists within the borders of the kibbutz. And I didn't know more than that. You know, the phone call just ended, and I left with that feeling that I know there are terrorists outside my kibbutz.
Wow.
And that there are wounded people, and that I'm not there to treat them.
And were you in touch with Shaked at that time?
I tried to text him all the time. He knew something bad is happening. They heard all the war sounds. It was pretty chaotic. Yeah.
Right there.
But he didn't know exactly what is happening. I think that the difference was that he knew what is happening in the kibbutz, which I didn't completely understand, and he wasn't aware to the scale of what is happening outside.
Did he leave or try to leave in the car with the two boys?
Not at this moment. He stayed in the mamad, in our safe room, for 17 hours.
How many hours?
17.
17.
Yes.
17 hours in the safe room.
Yeah.
And why didn't he try to leave?
We didn't know what is going on. We got text from the administrations of the kibbutz that we need to lock all the doors, close all the curtains, exactly, and to stay in the safe room. And this is what he did.
Wow, 17 hours.
Yeah, and actually, when he decided to leave, it wasn't escorted. He wasn't escorted by the IDF or something like that. He just leave on his.
He left on his own after 17 hours.
Yeah, with his family. We decided it was already around 6, 7 in the evening, and we were afraid of the night. We were afraid what will happen during the night, and we decided that they'll leave, they'll run away, and we took a risk. It was a huge risk.
Right.
But
what was the impact of that day on Kibbutz Erez?
Depends. First of all, it changed the whole community.
How many people were hurt in the kibbutz? Like, were many homes destroyed? Was your house impacted?
My house wasn't, but some of the houses were impacted. We were lucky because our security squad fought bravely, and they saved many lives. But unfortunately, we also lost people from the kibbutz. Amir Naim, he was one of our security squad members, a very close friend of my husband's brothers. And he died while saving our kibbutz. And just a few months ago, almost 3 months ago, his wife gave birth to his first son.
Firstborn.
Yeah.
Wow.
And which he's never met. And I think this is something that is with me all the time.
Sure.
And of course, other people were badly injured. and some houses were destroyed, but they were here, and they truly saved us.
You know, the word Erez, Kibbutz Erez, is synonymous in many people's minds with Ma'avar Erez, with the Oslo Accords, with the ordinary passage of goods and commodities between Israel and the Gaza Strip, with the notions of, you know, the idea, the foundation of the Oslo Accords about an independent Palestinian entity in Gaza. And here we are talking about the very same Kibbutz Erez and everything that you've gone through. So first of all, I'm so happy, you know, that, and thank God that nothing happened to Shaked, to your boys, to the extended family, in spite of everything. But as we all know too well, and you know better than most, if not all, the traumatic and emotional impacts of that day that supersede and go far beyond the physical injuries is something that is very present. So I just want to shift the camera for a minute back to the Soroka Medical Center on that morning of October 7th. You're worried about your family, but the injured start coming in. What do you see? Who's coming in?
So as I said before, we're just standing there at the entrance.
Ready for the storm.
And just, you know, people imagine wounded people arriving with ambulance or a helicopter, but there were hundreds of people arriving with private cars. Just, you know, a car entered to the ER, a parking place, and just 10 people are leaving out of a very small car, wounded with, I don't know, numerous number of gun wounds.
Gun wounds.
Yeah.
And when you describe 10 people in a car, my mind immediately goes to the Nova party by Kibbutz Reim.
Yeah, I think...
Were they the first?
Yeah, they were... it was divided into two. They were the first ones to arrive. And at the beginning, we didn't understand where they're coming from, because they were like, they just came from a festival and they were dressed like people that were at the festival. Many of them were under the use of drugs and other substance. And it took me a while to understand where all these people are coming from.
Right.
And at the same time, also a lot of people arrived from, a lot of Bedouin people arrived from, because due to the rockets.
Right.
Because they live in a very open area where they don't have bomb shelters, and many people were hurt, and also many people died on that day because of the rockets from the Bedouin society.
Right.
So I think they were the first two groups that arrived.
But you see those kids come out of the car with, you know, bullet wounds, with other. What goes through your mind? What do they tell you?
It was hard to grasp and to believe it.
Yeah, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes. You're standing there as they come in. You try to make sense out of this. You try to understand what to expect.
I think we're just working.
You're an autopilot.
Yeah, exactly. We tried to save lives. We tried to help.
Did they say anything?
Yeah, of course. They were talking, and me, especially as a psychiatrist, I hear people's stories all the time.
Right.
I remember there were one person that arrived a bit later from Be'eri area, and he said they kidnapped my family. They kidnapped 5 members of my family. They just took them with the car to Gaza. And I was looking at him and I couldn't believe it. It sounds something like...
outlandish.
Yeah. You know, and I saw he's telling the truth, but it was so...
far-fetched.
Yeah, exactly, that you I don't think...
We couldn't even grasp, comprehend the reality.
Exactly.
Because you mentioned the word before, you know, as we spoke at the beginning, you mentioned that word routine, right? Missiles, routine, safe room, routine, we're used to it, 99%, 1%. And, you know, I think it's one of the most amazing statements that I want people to understand this is by no means a routine of anyone that anybody should have. And then interrupting or disrupting this routine is suddenly the nightmare scenario of that kidnapping. You start hearing about people being taken captive into Gaza. What about your family at that point? What goes through your mind?
I was so afraid. I've never felt this way in my whole life.
Yeah.
I hope I will never feel like this again.
Amen. May you never.
It was something that you can't describe. It's a anxiety state that I can't even describe.
But you're the doctor, Sapir. You're the doctor. You're supposed to be the healer. How do you balance those emotions at that moment?
I tried to work, and while I was treating people, not to think about it, but after every patient I treated, I texted Shaked and I asked for one word in Hebrew, Idgun, update. And sometimes he wouldn't reply, and if it happened, then I texted our neighbor, because I truly believe that if the terrorists are inside my house at this moment, she will know and she will tell me. And it's an awful thought. Like,
right.
I truly didn't know if I will see my family again. And I was so afraid of not seeing them again. I thought again and again in my mind that it's not true. I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe I'm here while my family is there. And if they'll die, then I can't believe I will survive.
This is worst case scenario 101.
Yeah, and it was 4 hours this way, and it was.
So at
again,
that point, by the way, you were already
like
24 hours.
Yeah, I was working.
Like when the whole thing started, you were already 24 hours and a
Yeah.
cup of tea away from the start of your shift.
Exactly. I was very, very tired. I think it helped me a bit because I was a bit less alert than maybe in my normal state.
Right.
Because I was really, really tired, and these feelings of fear, of uncertainty about the future, I honestly didn't know when or if I will ever see them again.
In all of this time, throughout this period, you keep on taking care of patients coming into the
Yes.
emergency room at the Soroka Medical Center.
Yes.
Who else is coming, and what do you hear from them? Are there any specific cases that you can share with us that have stayed and are etched in your mind and in your heart?
Yeah. I remember at the beginning there were two small children that arrived from the Bedouin society. Their sister died from a rocket, and the girl, she weren't able to speak. She was just sitting there, and I had a cookie in my bag, which I saved for the tea from the morning.
Yeah.
And I remember just taking my cookie out and
Splitting it in half
and giving it to
the
them,
two kids, yeah.
and trying to sit with them, to talk to them.
Right.
We brought toys for the children to play, because many children came, some children even without their parents, and it was. I don't know if you've ever been there, but I grew up in this place. I studied there, I worked there. I know this place for so many years, and I've never seen it the way it was. It was chaotic. It was full with people, and hundreds of people, more than 600 people arrived on that day as a wounded people, and
hundreds of people on
hundreds,
that day.
and
right.
you need to add that to the thousands of people that came to work on that day. And you can add to the people that came from all over Israel to seek their loved ones. So the hospital was just crowded, and it's something that I think for someone that wasn't there, I always try to describe the smell.
Okay.
Because I think that it's something that is very difficult to describe, but the smell of the burned skin, it was just there. People came wounded in all sorts of types of, but the smell of the skin that was burned, it was something that stayed with me for days later. And to smell the blood and to see it everywhere, on the floor, on the chairs. I remember one of the police officers came, and as a psychiatrist, many patients arrived with the police, and
Right.
we were in contact with them.
Right.
And he came during the night. And
Same police officer.
yeah, and I saw him in the morning, and he had a lot of gun wounds in his arm and leg, and he was crying. And he told me, I can't believe my best friend died in front of me. He was from Sderot police station.
Oh, he was from the
And
police station.
he told me
Sderot.
there were a dozen of terrorists. They shot an RPG on our police car, and again I couldn't believe it. And I know this person. I saw him just a few hours before that, and just hundreds of people arriving, and it was really something that I understood at this moment that it's an historic event.
Right.
You felt it, but I couldn't believe the scale of it and the understanding that this has truly happened. I remember when it all started, when we were standing at the entrance, a student of mine came. He's a physiotherapist.
Right.
His family is from Kfar Aza.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, what are you doing here? And he said, he lives in Be'er Sheva. He said, I tried to reach my family, nobody answers. And I couldn't stay at home. I came here to see if you need help. And he just came in and worked and helped at the hospital. He donated blood. And I, only hours after that, understood that his father died there. He was murdered.
His father was murdered.
Yeah, from Kfar Aza, and
while protecting the family.
Exactly, his mother and his sister and her children, and you need to understand that this region, this area, we all know each other. It's
like
also
one big
Erez
family.
community is small, but we know people from other kibbutzes,
Right.
and we've known people that have been kidnapped and murdered, and it's we received all this information from people from other places, and many of the employees of the hospital are from this area.
Right.
So it's working, and during this whole time, knowing that people you loved they are there. Around 10:30 a.m., I received a phone call from Orosh. He was my sister partner. He was a captain in the military, in the IDF, in a special unit, and he was calling me to ask if we were safe. And I told him I'm not there. I'm not at the kibbutz. I'm at the hospital.
He was at that point. He was where?
He was on his way to the area from his base. So he was just near the kibbutz. And I remember he told me, "Don't worry, we will take care of them. Don't worry." I was very much afraid, and I didn't want to speak a lot because I was just near one of my patients. That her house has been, a rocket fell on her house, and I didn't want to speak a lot and
Right.
to make her more afraid. But we talked for a minute or so, and I know that a few hours later he was in Kfar Aza. He was rescuing families from their safe room, and he died. He was killed.
He was killed in battle against Hamas.
And I was one of the last people who spoke to him on that day.
Wow.
And I think this is something that I can't stop thinking about, this phone call, and asking myself why I haven't spoke to him longer. And if I don't remember even if I told him that I love him and how much I care about him. And if I asked him to take care of himself, I don't remember. But with all that, to deal with the grief of his loss and so many other people that we lost on that day, and since then, it's something that I carry with me every day.
Right.
And it's very, very hard.
I'm listening to you, and alongside the pain, the resilience is so visible. It's almost palpable. You can touch it. It's tangible. Because when you think about the nightmare scenario that you're describing to us and to our viewers at the Soroka Medical Center emergency room with hundreds of people coming in injured, different injuries, different situations, and not only do you not capitulate and fall back in despair, but you stand strong, even though you're going through incredible personal turmoil, thinking about your own family and friends, and you provide that service with immense heroism. How do you do that? How did you do it? What's the secret of that resilience? Tell us. Because it was such a trying moment, Sapir.
I don't think there's a secret. I think that for me, one of the things I've learned from this war is that the people of Israel are truly amazing, and we care about each other. And I just tried my best in this horrible situation to provide people help, to give them water, to listen to them, to be with them.
When all you want to do is lay back for a minute and have somebody do the same for you.
Yeah, that's true. But at the same time, I was there on duty. And so as well, all the other people that came to work on that day, even though they didn't have to, or people just came to work. I think this is one of the things that are truly part of the Soroka heritage. Because people, it's not only a place of work, it's a place where people belong to, and they feel part of it, and they all know each other, we all know each other, and you saw it. People just came. Nobody asked you to come to work on that day. People just came.
In your field of expertise, we talked about the bodily harm. Let's talk about the emotional trauma. And this is something that I think still accompanies so many Israelis and others, including to this very day. We hear about survivors of the Nova Music Festival and others who are in a horrible emotional state. Yeah. Did you feel any of that on that day, or was the focus only on the physical injuries? Did you see any of that emotional trauma, and how did you handle it on that day, coping with the fear yourself?
We saw it. There are a few emergencies in psychiatry. We saw people in a dissociative state where their body and mind are not connected. They weren't able to walk, to talk, to move. Some people even said they cannot see, even though their eyes are intact. So we saw that. We saw people that were in such a stress state that they weren't able to stop crying, or others. But I think at this day, the main focus was on the surgery and the other aspects of the more physical treatment.
Right.
But I think later on, and maybe since that day, psychiatry has a very big place in the healing of people.
Right.
Nowadays, we see a lot of people walking in Israel without limbs or hurt. You see it in the streets. But what you cannot see is people that were wounded in their souls. And I believe that so many people in Israel, even if they weren't there on that day, their souls have been shattered to a million pieces, and it's something that you cannot see. And you need to understand it. You need to have I don't know, to if it's not in your state of mind, then you're neglected, and people will suffer from it for years. It's not something that will pass in the next few weeks or months.
Needs to be taken care of.
Yeah. Many people ask me about PTSD. And I always answer, we're not there yet. We're not post. We're still living it. And for me, I'm still evacuated from my home. Right. People are still being kidnapped and hostage in Gaza. How can we be post this event when we're still living it every day. You see the north and what is going on there. They don't know even when they will be able to go back home.
Right.
So I think there's a lot to be done in the mental health department and area in Israel in general, and especially in the southern part of Israel. And Soroka...
Yeah, tell me about how do you at Soroka Medical Center take on this challenge of the mental health crisis in Israel today, and specifically
First of
in the
all,
South?
we have truly an amazing staff members, really. I think we have a lot of experience, and people truly care about what they're doing. And so I think it's something that you see. We treat a lot of wounded soldiers these days. And I must add that it's not only statistic. Like a few weeks ago, I met on my job a 13-year-old girl from Sderot that has been evacuated from her home after her first suicide attempt. And she's 13. And we see it. And also I came to give consultant for a woman after giving birth to her son, while her father is being hostage in Gaza. And you need to hear these people's story, and you need to feel their pain and to provide them help. And I think that for people that are not from this field, the best thing you can do is just to listen to people and to be there for them and to try to understand if they need professional help and to help them to find it, because sometimes this step to ask for help is
the most difficult one.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I listen to you, and I want to ask you, in Israel at the moment, in spite of all these challenges, there is a sense of, great spirit of resilience, of people coming together, helping one another. You spoke of neighborly relations, family. You're all one big community, especially at the Soroka Medical Center. Into the 10th month of this war, what's the feeling at the moment? Do you feel that this continues to be the case?
It feels like it must be part of it, because otherwise I don't know if I'll ever be able to go back home. I'm an activist for women's health for many years.
Yeah.
Ever since I had my experience, exactly. And a few weeks ago we had a survey from the hospital with other organization, the Bria Foundation, regarding the mental health of women that have been evacuated from their home.
Right.
And you see the numbers, and it's really frightening that women are seeking for help, women that reports that they use substance to help them sleep, alcohol, other substances.
And we're talking about tens of thousands of evacuees from the north and the south.
Also women in general in Israel, and especially women that have been evacuated from their home in the south and in the north. And you can see that at the first month, the south had a different story, the trauma, what happened. But nowadays, when people from the north are still also evacuated from their homes, the scale of depression, anxiety, other mental health situations, it's pretty much similar to the South, because the uncertainty of not knowing when you'll go back home. We lost our home in an instant. And I think for me sometimes today it's more difficult than it used to be in the first month, because then, I had to act and to take care of my children, and everything was so
urgent.
Exactly. And now you're beginning to understand the meaning of what happened, of knowing that
it starts to sink in.
Exactly. They took my home. They took the community that I was part of away from me. And it's something that will take years to build back. And
maybe the homes, but the community itself, the sense of mishpucha, the sense of community that you have as people amongst yourself is quite amazing.
It's true, but it's not the same.
It's not the same when you're not together.
Yeah,
in
we're supposed to move back to the kibbutz in
Right.
the next month.
Amen.
And many people, many families chose not to come back yet. And
to take their time.
yeah, and maybe they will never come back. And it's sad. And for me, it was part of the understanding that I need to do something to change this reality. And with a colleague of mine, a friend from the kibbutz, she's also a kibbutz member, she's called Shimrit. She's a psychologist from Bar Ilan University. We decided to create a place in the kibbutz, in the heart of the Gaza Strip envelope,
Right.
a center, holistic center for women that will provide the help we need. I see it also as a place for me
Right.
to receive the help I need.
Right.
It will be also a place where you can receive a mental support, but medical support as well. And we aim that Soroka Hospital, of course, will be part of it as well, and other organizations. But just a few days ago, I received a text message from one of my friends in the kibbutz. And she said to me that she texted that a place like that is a reason for her to come back home. Because this is the resilience we're talking about.
That's
a place for the community to be whole again, to heal together. A place where we can share what we experienced, that we can seek for help for professional, the best in their field, that are aware of the trauma we experienced. And this is what I imagine, and I hope it will happen in other places in Israel, because we need it. We need a place to heal.
To heal. You know, I'm listening to you so eloquently sharing one of the toughest stories that anybody can listen to. And am I hearing a book?
I don't think so.
Maybe. When you have a minute, when you sit back at your home at Kibbutz Erez, look out the window of 99% heaven, hopefully 100% heaven, and you'll be able to have that peace of mind to come and park the car outside and have the boys give you a big hug, and you will sit with Shaked, Sahar, and Inbar for dinner and experience life the way it should be. And I think this is a hope that we should all hold on to, because at the end of the day, it's our mission to defeat evil. And this is not a privilege. This is an obligation for our sake, for our children, for our future.
I completely agree. I couldn't said it better than that. I think that I truly hope this will come true, and that not so far from today,
Amen.
it could happen.
Amen. And everybody will come back home. All of those who are held captive for so many months, taken from their beds on a Saturday morning to bring an end to this cycle, and for a better future for everyone. I think this is what we all desire.
I think we will never be able to heal from it,
Right.
unless they will come back home.
Right.
And because it's what I think about when I wake up.
Right. And it's what they knew when they took them.
Exactly.
That's, I think, is the toughest part.
We choose to live there.
Yeah.
But it's, I think, also the responsibility of our country to bring them back.
This is something that the state of Israel, this entire situation is something that we as a society, and I think the state of Israel and as people will have to grapple with for many years to come, to talk about notions of accountability, responsibility, and lessons to be learned as we move forward. But I join you with the same hope of that tranquility to come back again, and I'm still hoping for that book. So I just want to really thank you for sharing your incredible story with us. You know, listening to you is in many ways the epitome of Israel's story of the pain and the resilience.
Thank you
and
so
I think
much
you're a
for
great
having me
manifestation of that.
Thank you.
And to you, our viewers, what can we say? Listening to Sapir's story provides us with a great understanding of the kind of situation that Israel and Israelis face today. And when we talk about the battle of good versus evil, I think listening to you, of a healer, of somebody who's there very much embedded within the community, of an activist for women's rights and women's health, as somebody who knows intimately the Bedouin and Jewish communities of the South, who is part of the great Soroka Medical Center family, and has to cope with the flow of a tsunami of sheer evil, humanity unlike has never been seen before. And I think that tells the whole story. And we know which side we're on. So I'd like to thank you again for your devotion, your inspiration, and the power that you give us all as we listen to you. Thank you, Sapir. And to you, our viewers, thank you all for watching and joining us on this important journey. And join me as we all pray to see better times for Israel and indeed for the world. We hope to see you soon as we cast yet another fascinating eye on Israel. Thank you all for watching.